Michigan is on the road for the very first time this year, and we're going to finally see what the Wolverines are capable of. We're really going to know what this team is, much like the last 3 years when the first road game revealed a lot. We're bringing in Trente Jones for our semi-weekly running power here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground here in Lake Stevens, Washington. You're not going to get this. I was hoping to do this in a beautiful location. It is, believe it or not, raining in Seattle. I'm here with Trente Jones. Trente, welcome back. You excited, man?
Let's freaking go. I'm so excited to talk about the Michigan Wolverines.
Well, we haven't talked in a couple weeks. We've seen USC. We've seen Minnesota, kind of the same game. It was impressive against one team and not impressive against another one because of the perception and everything. In the pre-show, you were really just kind of riffing a little bit. So I just kind of want to let you go. What is the state of the team right now as far as you can that you can surmise? Like what stands out to you?
Man, I love these Michigan Wolverines, man. I love everything that they are doing. I feel like there are some things that we can change to make this team better. Make Michigan great again. I think if we give Orji the reins to run some deep throws down the field, this can open up the passing game. And I feel like his accuracy, short range, will be phenomenal if you give him some things to open it up. Make the defense back up a little bit. If you throw a shot downfield and it's almost caught, you're going to notice those DBs back up a little bit. And the second that happens, the dominant run game from Kalel, the electricity that comes from Donovan Edwards in big games comes out. That opens up the entire defense. That makes them stop being so worried about the short game, the first down, the 5 yards. And hey, use Kalel. That man is running 7 yards every single time he touches the ball, averaging 7 yards. Let's do some math here. 2 plays with Kalel running the ball on average. What is that? A first down. 4 yards is a good run. He's doing 7 yards? 7? That is a Heisman level performance out of Kalel. I love what he's doing. I'm loving him breaking tackles, looking dominant. He is in the Heisman running. Give him the ball. Donovan Edwards, electric in big games. We can count on him for being electric. Boom. Orji, deep ball. Get some connections with the wide receivers. All he needs is one. And that is going to terrorize everyone because you do that once. You threaten everyone. You're like, okay, they got some dogs. Puts it in your mind, now we got our running back and our running game open. Looking at the O-line, we're developing each and every week. Miles is looking more dominant. Him in the screen game, I wouldn't want to be out there as a DB. That's terrifying. You're going to give even more lanes for the running backs, for Samaj to be even nastier in the screen game. That's beautiful. And then that's the offense. That's all you need. Some threats, crossers, run the game. I'm getting passionate. This is beautiful. And that's the offense. We can get to the defense soon, but hey, man, get the ball downfield. That's going to be absolutely crucial in this game at Washington.
Now, there is, obviously Alex Orji has been playing kind of with an arm tied behind his back to some degree because his first week of going out there, and I'm assuming you can't hear me again, but his first week of being out there, he didn't have Colston Loveland. Last week, he doesn't have Samaj, and then loses Miles Hinton. We'll see who comes back against Washington, but as someone who has seen what Alex Orji is capable of, well, before I even get to you, like Colston Loveland, we talked to Colston Loveland on Tuesday, and I asked him, like, what have you seen from him, that gives you confidence in him? And he said, I'm just waiting for him to take this game over. And that sounds like something you said a couple weeks ago. what have you seen that leads you to believe, like, yeah, he can hit some of those deep shots? That he can be a guy that also can come in and just really grab the bull by its horns and be that leader. What do you know of Alex in that regard?
I know that when you're throwing the ball downfield with a strong quarterback, as Alex Orji is, he's an overthrower. It happens. If you put the position on the wide receiver to just go out there and run as fast as you can, and he throws it down there and they make a play, that can absolutely give any quarterback confidence to go out there and be like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to be decisive. I'm going to throw a pinpoint ball. I'm going to throw better. As soon as you get confidence as a quarterback, you can absolutely take over a game, end up getting 300 yards passing just because you had 1-2 good decisive plays. Now, I do think that the wide receivers need to be a little bit more savvy when knowing who the quarterback is. If you know that he's an overthrower and he's going to get it to you, but he may put a little bit too much, he puts too much strength on it. That's the problem. You're going to run a little bit harder. So I want the wide receivers to go out there knowing that it might not be where you perfectly in your hand, but if you run that much harder, if you dive and catch something, you give him the confidence to put the ball on you, to give you that opportunity to make some more plays. I know the wide receivers are pleading for that opportunity. So all they got to do is go out there and take that opportunity and give their quarterback a chance to take over the game.
And you know what? That they absolutely do need to do more in general. But there's the other part of the battery that has been hit or miss. Like you said, the offensive line has improved. Pass protection still looks a little bit dicey. What have you seen from them, and how can how close are they? How far away are they? Like, what are you seeing from the offensive line in terms of pass protection?
I've been a part of 2 Joe Moore award-winning offensive lines, and what I've noticed in both of those, thank you, in both of those offensive lines, there was one common similarity: the center. I feel like the center needs to be a consistent piece of the offense. We need to decide who's going to be the center and ride him into the sunset. Pause. We need to make sure that that person is comfortable and they can make the right reads and communicate properly to the rest of the line. We've been a little bit wishy-washy. We played a little bit of Dom. We played a little bit of Crip. We need to decide who's going to be the man in charge and let them take control of this offensive line. Because at the end of the day, if the center isn't the lead man, it's going to be some problems. The tackles, they can be great. They can be all pro. We're in college. They can be all pro, but if the center isn't the head, the brains, and completely encompassing the offensive line and protecting the quarterback, it's not going to be where it needs to be. So the center needs to be one person and be very consistent with their points.
You know, if they can do exactly what you're saying, but that whole battery, you have the offensive line. You settle in on a center, whoever it is. I'm still, even though they seem to be more team Dom, I'm still team Crip. It's like gangs over here. But I say that, by the way, I'm staying at my friend Robin's house. Rob actually was saved once when he was in Mexico by the Crips. They're the gang with the heart of gold. So I'm team Crip all the way, and that goes all the way to Greg Crippen. But nonetheless, you get that offensive line going. You get receivers running those streaks. They have to be able to protect the Alex Orji long enough so that the receivers can get downfield for him to make those throws. If he can hit 1 or 2 a game, you've got the Jalen Milroe 2023 offense, baby. That's what it was. They're so close to having that.
And that's the thing. You just got to give him that opportunity, because nobody thought Jalen Milroe was going to be Jalen Milroe today. But that's where he started. If you told someone who was an Alabama fan that Jalen Milroe would be in the front running for Heisman this year at the beginning of last year, they would have called you crazy. Look at us. Orji. Do it. Just Get him, put him in the position, please, for the love of all football gods. Put him in the position to make that change. Make that throw once or twice a game. Give him some time to develop because he has the body. He has the frame. He has the skill. He has the talent. Come on. Come on. I don't know who I'm talking to, but if you're listening, do it. Come on. I believe in you.
I'll loop Sharon into the next show. We're going to continue on where I still want to stay on the offense before we switch defense and then get into the game predictions and all of that. We're going to do that here in just a moment. But before we do, hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. That's America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sports book. All right, we're going to move on here in just a moment, but before we do, I also have to tell you a little bit about Home Field apparel. I would be wearing my Home Field. I'm not wearing it if you're watching on camera. I would be wearing my Home Field hoodie because I only brought warm clothes because it's colder here in Seattle. But I wore it on the plane because it was the most comfortable. It's the most comfortable thing ever. You're just wearing anything from Home Field. If you don't know what Home Field is, it's a retro, modern kind of prestige. I don't know how to say it. I don't have my notes. I'm just off the cuff here. It's kind of like a prestigious retro modern clothing company based out of Indianapolis. They go and they look at every little tiny old amazing retro logo that they can find in your school's history, and their Michigan collection is absolutely insane. They've just dropped some new lines with the heavyweight shirts. They've got these new coaches jackets. They've got these new pullovers that are absolutely phenomenal as well. It's the coolest gear you can get anywhere. And if you go to homefieldapparel.com, you can use my promo code GOBLUE24 to get 15% off of your next order. That's GOBLUE24 to get 15% off of your next order at homefieldapparel.com. Just the coolest college apparel you can get anywhere. All right, we're continuing on with Trente Jones. We are inching closer to game time. I say game time, I just mean game day. It feels like it's been 8 weeks in one after making a cross-country trip. Trente down there safe and sound in Florida. I am in rainy Seattle. But there's certainly some things that I feel like are misconceptions. Now, granted, I'm pretty hard on Davis Warren because he turned the ball over 18 million times, and you can't do that and expect to win games. You were saying in the pre-show, like, there's some things that he was doing that was really, really nice. But how do you feel about the state of the offense with Orji leading it versus Warren? Because right now, I've spent multiple shows this week saying that people are being very undued. There's a lot of people who are clamoring right now for Jack Tuttle. They just want to keep changing, thinking that the next guy is going to be the guy that leads Michigan back to the national championship overnight. Do you like the direction that Michigan's on with Alex Orji? Would you make a change? Kind of what are your thoughts as far as that's concerned?
Okay, so we were talking in the pre-show about Davis Warren. I know that his arm, nasty. I know that he's extremely accurate. But the problem is when you're accurate and somebody can see where you're accurately throwing the ball, they're going to pick it off. So that's why he threw a lot of picks. But he also had a lot of yards. I think he was close to 500 yards throwing. Also 6 interceptions. That's not a great thing. But he was very accurate. I like the way he throws the ball, but I don't think that he is the right direction for Michigan football at the moment. I feel like using Alex Orji, we'll get back to this, using Alex Orji as a catalyst to open up things and use him to run, use him in more QB design runs, letting him throw the ball deep, opens up things that Davis Warren couldn't necessarily do. Jack Tuttle, that's one thing that I'm very interested in because he was the front runner when I was still in the building. I was preparing for the draft, injury, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. It's not about me anymore. It's about Jack Tuttle. We're talking about Jack Tuttle. He was the front runner at one point. I would still like to see what he could do, but I don't think that he is the right direction. I know that Alex Orji is the best runner, and I know that he will lead this team in the right direction. Very God-fearing man. I know that he can throw that ball just like anyone else could in the country. So using him as the catalyst to open up the offense will definitely pay dividends in the success of this Michigan offense. So, yes, I don't think Davis Warren can, lead like Alex Orji could, and Jack Tuttle just hasn't had the opportunity to do anything. So, yeah, I think they're in the right direction.
All right, let's move to the other side of the ball, defense. It's been troubling watching, and I think you're fixing your mic again. I hope you're good. All right, you can hear me. We're good. All right, so the defense, I feel, looks amazing in the first half. This has been the case in 4 of the 5 games. Terrible in the second half. Now, against Arkansas State, it's kind of fine because they did it against scrubs. And, I don't want to say it's fine, but, that game was well in hand. It was guys we're never going to see again for the rest of the year playing. Michigan's trying to get it's in as close as it could be at that point to a blowout situation, and wanted to see what it had. So I don't fault them for that, but obviously you have back-to-back weeks. It's not surprising with USC. That's a potent offense in Los Angeles. But Minnesota finding ways to do the same exact thing that USC did is a little bit scary, right? Are you concerned about the state of the defense? Because it almost in a way is reverse. We're accustomed to seeing teams score a bit in the first half and then nothing in the second, and we've seen the reverse of that happen so far this year.
I feel like the defense is coming to a point where it's very strong and then it breaks. I feel like we have to mold ourselves more into the position of bending and not breaking. And that's always been the case in my philosophy of, if I was a coach, bend, not break. Let teams get that under, give the offense good field position, because at the end of the day, if you just let them open up the defense, run straight down the middle, it tears up everybody's confidence, and it just obviously leads to points. So I feel like being more conservative in certain situations and less aggressive will pay us dividends. Let those 4 men up front get pressure. Put DBs on wide receivers. If you know that they have a dog wide receiver, double that man. There is no shame in that. But that doesn't mean double every single wide receiver that you think is good. We have Will Johnson. That's one of the greatest. Let me not overhype it. I think Will Johnson is extremely good. I was about to say of all time, but Will Johnson is definitely on that route.
He's got the most.
He's definitely on that route
in Michigan history, and he's going to have more. He's going to have more.
He's definitely going to have more. If he doesn't have the most in history, wait, he already does.
Yeah.
No? Most,
in Michigan history.
So he might be one of the greatest cornerbacks in Michigan history. So let that man handle somebody that is really good on their team. Double someone else. You got a dog. Use that. So I feel like that in the back end. Now the D-line, that's terrifying. KG, 2 sacks. Mason, 3. Josiah, pretty sure he has 5. Might have 4. Regardless, that's a lot of sacks. And with sacks comes a lot of pressure, because you're not getting back there randomly. They are providing a lot of pressure and a lot of schemes. So I feel like using those 4 people, I didn't mention the 4th one, Derek Moore, dangerous. TJ Guy, he got a sack. That's dog. You got Rayshon Benny. You got Ike. I'm joking. I love Ike.
But great. Don't dog on Ike.
He's been doing good too. You know what I'm saying? You got dogs. You got backups. You got people. Let them go out there, get some pressure on that quarterback, because at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to be blocking solo any of those guys. You know what I'm saying? And if they have to double those guys, that's even less people in the back end. So use those people. I would say more zone coverage. You know what I'm saying? Loop the D-line. Simulate pressure. Like, come on. This is like basic stuff. What are we doing? I don't want to say names. Simulate pressure. Use some loops. It would mess me up all the time. I promise you, when you simulate that corner pressure, I'm terrified because now I got to worry about two different things. I just want to focus in on one thing. As soon as you make me focus on something else, hits the fan. So, excuse my language, simulate some pressures, use the D-line, and we'll be in a great position. Linebackers, Ernest, dog. Jay, number one, dog. And people hate on him. One, they put a lot of pressure on him to do a lot. So he's going to mess up sometimes. He's not going to be perfect. He's not the best in the entire world like Will Johnson. You know what I'm saying? He's going to make mistakes. He's young. He's going to make mistakes. But here's the thing. He's not going to make that same mistake. He's not going to make the same mistake multiple times. So give him some time. I still have my faith in him. Ernest, dog. Most tackles, I'm pretty sure on the team. But if not, he's very close to it. Dog. So linebacker room, not worried about it.
All right. We have to move on now that we've made this an NSFW podcast. First in history. We're going to move on. We're going to give our just kind of our general thoughts about this upcoming game in about 4 or 5 minutes or less, and we will move on. So we're going to do that here in just a moment. But before we do, listen, if you made let's say you are let's say not a planner, you decided that you were going to come out to Seattle and then get a ticket later, right? The best way that you can find your way in the door and get it at the best price possible is through Game Time. Game Time even has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They've got their super deal. They've got all these curated deals that make it easier to find the best price on great seats. And with seat views before you can buy, you can see exactly what you're going to be looking at before you even get to the stadium. That, to me, is the most important thing. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code. Redeem the code. LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Trente, I want to give a shout out to the people that recognized me in the airport it was 1 a.m., essentially local time. That means 4 a.m. And I apologize to the people who got very weird reactions from me. Listen, I am on the spectrum, and it was very late. So I want to give an excuse for me, people being like, hey, I love your show, and me being like, Wizards! That's not what I said, but it's that level of incoherence on my end. Nonetheless, all right, we got the game coming up. Big game. What do you think is going to happen if you had to predict it right now?
I was pretty spot on with that USC game. So I'm going to have to say a Michigan dub. I do believe that Washington's going to score a few points. I know that QB over there has a chip on his shoulder. I know that Michigan has a chip on their shoulder. I feel like we're going to take over the run game. I feel like we're going to shut them down early, and then they're going to start scoring. I feel like the score is going to be – do you want me to say my score right now, or do you want me to wait?
Go ahead. Say your score right now.
Okay. I'm going to say Michigan 24, Washington 17. Michigan W.
You stole my score. I literally all right. Well, I'm going to stay with that score. We're both 24-17. I'm also predicting – well, in a way, I'm not necessarily I am predicting a Michigan win, but at the same time, I am for sure predicting a Michigan UW because that's what they call Washington. That's what they're playing. The cheesiest joke of horns down, we'll just horns down it. I did give someone an okay, cool hook 'em earlier this week, so I think that one of the things that people aren't recognizing, especially against Minnesota, was that Michigan was without Josiah Stewart. It was without Will Johnson, two of arguably the most important players, maybe the most important player on the entire team in Will Johnson. Certainly the one that's graded the highest in every metric, everywhere you look, all of that kind of stuff. Now Washington's going to have to really try to attack not only Will Johnson, but a Jair Hill who's really come into his own in the last couple of weeks. Still, obviously, he could have a bad game. He could look like he did in the Texas game, but hopefully he looks more like he did against USC, because I think USC's weapons are a little scarier than what Washington has. Washington is certainly going to be able to hit some here and there, and they're going to – I would imagine Jed Fish is going to try to take something out of the Sark playbook like Lincoln Riley did, and I don't know that it's necessarily worked. I do think that you're going to see Alex Orji be able to hit on at least one of those deep shots. I'm predicting he's going to have about 160 yards in this game, doubling his output from last week, because he's getting more comfortable. He's able to go through his reads better. So I also have Michigan 24-17. So that's where we're at. All right. That's going to do it for us. I want to get out there in the rain. I want to see this city, since I've driven through it at night now, and I haven't seen Seattle proper. So we'll be back, or at least I will be back on Saturday morning with a show. Trente will be back next week, God willing, and the creek don't rise. So for Trente Jones, your Joe Moore Award-winning right tackle, I'm Isaiah Hole in all of my grainy splendor. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Peace.
Later.